Is it time? He's ready to go? All right. Call to order the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for August 13th, 2019. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded. Are there any comments on the agenda? Hearing none, it is approved. I have a motion to ratify the July 24th, 2019 and August 7th, 2019 warrants, please.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there public comment at this time? Hearing none. Pending leases and contracts, Mr. Rafter?
We have a number of them tonight. The first is a change to the Atlantic Aeolus lease, it's a reduction of $1,500 business fee, removing the Grant Point Marine as a subtenant and taking out the permitted use of cold storage. Next is a lease agreement with Tidal Creek Corporation. It's a new one in the Bunker Road area for $102,366 per year. Then we have another new Bunker Road tenant, Edgewater Landscape Design for $45,738 a year. And we have an operating agreement with Altius, which is a Blade charter operator, $1,500 business fee. Flying Zebra, the same thing, $1,500, and they're a charter operator for Blade. We have a contract with McFarland Johnson, task order number 18 for botanical monitoring that happens each year. Another contract with Daedalus Projects for our project manager on the security project. That's for $173,360. And we have another task order with McFarland Johnson for the just for the fire suppression repairs. I missed this one. Johnson Controls for the fire suppression system repairs, the SRA, and that was $39,168. We have a contract amendment with Highlight Airfield Solutions for $31,776. That's to correct one that was previously discussed to add the amount of days to the contract. And then we have the finally the contract with McFarland Johnson for task order A04, and that is for the security project for $534,900.
And that is, there is no AIP grant yet, so basically.
We're expecting it within a week or less. The FAA gave us every indication that we would be getting that grant.
So that's 90%?
Yes.
And 5% from the Commonwealth?
Yes, and on that project, just so you're all aware, it's split down into eligible and ineligible. Some of it's AIP eligible, some is not. But essentially the eligible is 90%, and then state picks up quite a bit of the ineligible.
I had a question on these project manager's security project. How long is that, do you expect that's going to be? Is it, I mean, months or years?
No, at this point, we're looking at the project possibly being put out as two bids. And I believe the first portion would be done by, let's say, about this time next year.
Okay.
And then the second may be into the next construction season.
Okay, thank you.
But this is for the first phase?
This is for the entire project.
For the entire project?
For design, yes. The
No, I mean for
construction.
Daedalus.
For Daedalus, it's yes for both.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve these lease amendments, operating agreements, and contracts and contract amendment as outlined by Mr. Rafter?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Is there further discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Crew quarters.
No real change on that, although we are setting up a meeting with McFarland Johnson folks to begin, or they should have a draft of the model that we talked about for the financial risk return on the housing crew quarters. So that's supposed to be when Jamie gets back from vacation, I believe either next week or the following week.
All right, thank you. Grant signing letter of authorization. Is there a sample here?
I make a motion to endorse the grant signing letter of authorization as has been done in past years.
Second?
Any discussion? My autograph will never have any value. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. All right, we have the manager's report.
Before that, Dan, we have a draft.
Oh, I'm sorry,
policy
I'm
for
sorry, yes. Draft,
Discussion purposes and review.
this is occasioned by the fact that a religious group has applied to pass out
To hand out
literature.
leaflets, yes.
And so we thought rather than just bring it up, we do it as a draft and discuss it to the extent anybody wants to, and then bring it up for final action next month.
Can you explain it a little bit more, please?
It's essentially a First Amendment issue where groups, have right of free speech, but we have the ability to designate where that takes place and how it takes place. And that's what the policy would outline. So we would, if we receive this request, we would have a process where they'd have to get the approval, and we would say for how long and where. I know I had one at my prior airport, and we used it a number of times when there were pickets to be set up, so that they weren't blocking entrances and things like that. It still allows them the free, First Amendment rights, but under controlled environments, so not disrupting any business or anything.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any comments or questions at this point on this?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Any thought of a fee to
I don't
associate?
think we can do that.
Well, just maybe we can, just for discussion then.
Yeah.
Just from at administrative level, right? Like if we have a cost to have to manage it, is that something that maybe you could just explore whether we could do it? I wouldn't want it to be prohibitive, but if it's taking staff time and resources, maybe it's $100 or I don't know. Maybe that's something
can
run
look
by
into that
council.
for
It's just
sure.
I mean, it's worth looking
It's
into.
just a thought.
It sort of
It-
makes me a little uneasy that somebody would challenge it, and is it worth it?
What about other airports?
Well,
Are you
that's what
aware?
I say, I can check other airports.
yeah, I'm just
and
curious.
find out.
I'm not set on it for or against, but I always try to think that if
It's a fair question.
The offsetting cost to manage it, yeah.
right.
Okay.
And our policy was drawn from other
Well, it's from
airport,
another airport, yeah.
and they didn't
check
have
with
anything
them.
in there.
Right.
I don't know.
And are you thinking of a specific location?
The designated area is between the gazebo and the terminal. We also have the right to move that as we see fit.
All right, well, think about it. If you have any other comments on it, please get back to Mr. Rafter and,
I think that area is not a bad area, because I keep thinking now on Main Street, when you go by one place, they're handing you out perfume or hot face cream, and I wouldn't want to see that really happening in the terminals as such.
Now, and there's restrictions on some of those things, what they can and can't do too.
Thank you.
I thought the gazebo would make a perfect pulpit. Anyhow, we'll talk about it next time. All right, thank you, Mr. Rafter. Your report, please.
On the project side of the house, the administrative office work is moving along very well. The flooring is complete, the painting is done. We're just awaiting some carpeting in a couple of the offices, and it's turning out to be a very nice job. Hold room phase 2, just working on a punch list to close that out. The runway markings, we have 2 projects. A centerline grinding and painting began last night. We'll continue each night this week. They're hoping to finish by Wednesday night, tomorrow night. And then the following week, we have work being done on displaced threshold markings. And again, that will be evening work as well. The ALP geometry issue, we're still waiting feedback from FAA. It was ironic that our meeting last week, they asked me the status of that, and I said, well, it's in your court to tell us. So we're still waiting for feedback on that. The EAEIS, again, work continues. We're hoping to have that done in the fall. PFC application number 2 we're working on. And we had a pre-CIP meeting with FAA, and I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is they're gonna fight to get us a whole lot of money. The bad news is they're gonna fight to get us a whole lot of money. When I say a lot of money, we're talking probably between 30 and 50 million over the next 5 to 7 years.
I'll take a loan.
We pled our case for taxiway Echo as well as the runway. The runway, what we learned from the markings project when they did the water blasting is that it had a significant impact on the runway, which indicated the runway was, the deterioration was progressing a little faster than we anticipated. So the idea is to get it in the line, in the queue, and we're looking at about 2023 to have the runway done. So FAA said that they would fight to get us this money. They just wanted to make sure that the airport and the town were committed to our piece of it, and I told them that we were. So I hope I didn't speak out of turn, but I figured if we can pay 5% on $30 or $50 million.
Yeah, and it needs to be
take it.
done.
It needs to be done.
On the RFP and bids, working with Katie to look at the upcoming year and put in line all the standard leases and things that we have to redo. So we're gonna be updating that whole schedule. The operations, we had the vice president visit on Saturday. It went extremely well. Very busy weekend with Pops being in. I have to give our staff credit. Preston Harriman and Mike O'Neill and the entire staff, the FBO, maintenance operations, everybody did a fantastic job. When I say it went smooth, it was a big operation. I mean, especially in the middle of your busiest day, when they called initially and said they were gonna bring the 757, it just wasn't gonna work. But they did bring 2 G5s and 3 helicopters, and a C-17. Again, on the busiest day of the year, and operations did a fantastic job and maintenance as well, so.
Did they use the helicopters to move anybody on the island, or was it just to
No,
bring people in?
there was a Coast Guard helicopter on standby for medevac. And the governor came in too to greet him. So he was on one state police helicopter, I believe. The other was flying reconnaissance essentially before and after takeoff. But what it does is when they do a ramp freeze, it shuts everything down until they stop moving, and all the airplanes are circling. So when the air traffic opens back up, we get hammered. But it did go very, very well. So
Could I ask you a question, Mr. Rafter, please? I think on Facebook there was talking about somebody has a personal helicopter that they can park on their land. Is that true, or is that just Facebook?
I thought that the town had adopted a bylaw where they couldn't land helicopters on their private property. I remember about 2 years ago receiving a call, and I had to check with the state, and the state said their regulations allow them to land essentially anywhere. They said it's up to the local jurisdiction. And that's when I thought that the town had adopted a bylaw that said nowhere but the airport.
Okay. I mean, the chatter was that the person's got permission and all of that, and I don't even know where it is. That didn't
They'd
say.
have to get it from the town, but that's,
Okay.
my understanding was only the airport.
All right, thank you.
So as I said, it was Pop's
Well,
weekend.
they can land, right? Or do they have to land at the airport? Because I know people use them to go over to Tuckernuck.
Well, this was in the
Yeah.
purview of, near the airport is what I think could see it.
I think it was
if I understand.
just on this island, I don't know. So as I mentioned, Pops was extremely busy. The fuel gallons pumped were 95,820, which is slightly above last year. And total sales were up 2%, driven primarily by the price of fuel. And with that, I'll go into statistics if there's no other questions.
Go ahead, please.
So our operations were up 5.3% roughly over last June. Year to date, they're still down 18.5%. The employments were up 4.39 over last June and up 3.14 year to date, which is a change for us. We're starting to see the employments come back. Cape Air saw an 11% decrease in employments. United had 628 more employments this year due to a slightly earlier start. Delta saw a 48% decrease, or 465 passengers over last June. JetBlue had a 13% increase, or 1,021 passengers in enplanements for June, due again to an earlier start and additional flights. Nantucket Air was up 22%, or 123 passengers. Tradewinds was down 10%, and Retrix was down 46%. American was up 71%, or 633 passengers. And by market, in the Washington market, JetBlue was up 1%, American was up 39%, and the total DCA market was up 20%, or 276 passengers.
Does American have an additional flight from DC, or is it just the same? They have the same capacity,
They have one a day.
one a day?
Additional LaGuardia.
Oh, Guardia.
No, I was asking about DC. Because, I mean, it's a fairly substantial increase.
Well, that was also starting earlier, because this
Right,
is the
okay, all right.
June, so. The Boston market, JetBlue was down 2%, or 46 passengers. Cape Air had a 10% increase, or 287 passengers, and market total was up 5%. United in the Newark market had 628 more enplanements this year. New Bedford continues to drop significantly, was down 58%, or 456 passengers. The White Plains market, everybody's in that. Cape Air experienced a 33% increase, or 43 passengers. JetBlue carried 500 passengers. It's their first year in White Plains. We didn't get a report from Retrix. I got to look into that. And absent the Retrix report, though, there was an increase of 543 passengers for the month in that market. Hyannis for June, Cape Air was down 96%, or 292 passengers. AC Air was up 22%, or 123. Retrix was down 48%, or 771 passengers. So overall, Hyannis market was down 38% over last June, or 940. Again, that's the ferry. In the JFK market, JetBlue was down 12%, or 626 passengers. LaGuardia, American was up significantly by 325 passengers. Delta was down 48%. Retrix carried 29 passengers, and total market was down 10%, or 111 passengers. Charlotte traffic on American was up 33%. Vineyard traffic continued to decline and was down 51%. And New Southern Airways service, Providence, they carried 22 passengers on 13 flights. And Norwood, 9 passengers on 12, New Haven 10 on 7. So they're getting started. On the fuel side of the house, Jet A gallons sold for June were up 11.3%, year to date up almost 9%. 122,488 gallons over last year. And for July, we're up 8.4%, or 31,594 gallons. July, again, we sold over 400,000 gallons of fuel, which is a large number. Avgas was up 1.16 for June, and year-to-date 12.6. July, they were down 1.4%. Freight continued to climb, was up 4.87% over last June, and up 9.5% for the year. The noise complaints, there were 9 in June versus 17 last June. And if I could, I'd like to just show a quick video of a drone that Preston flew on the 3rd. We were unable to fly one on the 10th with the Vice President's visit, but we have some time-lapse video that we'll be putting up on a YouTube video. And we're going to be doing another drone flight with McFarland Johnson next weekend. Now, mind you, this is not Pops weekend, it's the weekend before, but gives you a good idea. And we use this in our meeting with the FAA too. You can see how they kind of have to park airplanes a little bit. You can also see the condition of our pavement. That back corner there, they have to tuck airplanes in, and usually if you're in the back, they have to tow 2 out to get you out. So. this is something we used again when we were meeting with FAA, so that, you know, sometimes they come out in January and February and they don't understand it. So we kind of give them an idea of, you know, we do actually get some real traffic in here. This past weekend, we did run out of space around noontime on Sunday for about a 20-minute period, but they jockeyed some things around and were able to fit them in. So that's a courtesy of Preston with his drone and his equipment. He produced the whole thing, so I think it's very well done.
Was he the music director too?
I think so.
So was FAA surprised to
Loud?
see that? Or, I mean, I know they gave us, you know, they decided to give lots of money or what?
I
What
don't
was
know
their
if they're that
reaction?
surprised, but as I said, it shows you saw that crack seal that had to be done. It shows some of the condition of the, you know, aprons and things. And we told them about the taxiway and the runway, and you know, they weren't surprised. They were very, I was surprised that there was no pushback. They simply said, we're gonna fight to get you as much money as we can. And
Good.
they essentially asked questions like, okay, if we get you all this money, can you meet this deadline, this deadline, this deadline? Of course, we said yes.
We'll try. Our darndest.
So, on the personnel side of the house, we're starting to have some of our seasonals leave. It's time to go back to college. And on the travel requests, I just want to let the commission know that I reviewed the agenda and things for the ACI meeting in Tampa, and we will not be going. It's extremely expensive. But I do have a request in for, I think, the National Airports Conference, which is one I usually go to. This year it's in San Antonio, and I'm moderating a panel there. And that's in, I think, October.
That was gonna be one of my questions about the previous thing that you wanted to go on.
Yeah, I looked at that registration fee, and it was like $1,500 or
Yeah.
something, which there were a couple of items on the agenda that might have been worthwhile, but I just couldn't justify in my mind
Right.
the total cost.
Is there a motion to approve the manager's travel request?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, commissioners' comments. We have a schedule of meeting dates, and they are reserved, right? We are on the
Agenda, or the calendar.
calendar here. So again, it's the second Tuesday of every month.
Mr. Chair, if I may, too,
Yes.
just reminded me that conference that is in October is, I believe, during one of the commission meetings. So I'm sure my assistant can fill in if need be.
I'm sure he will do an excellent job. All right, anybody else have any comments or?
I have a couple of comments. As I said earlier, I was traveling the other week, and of course we had to wait 3 hours for a break on the JetBlue, but the people at JetBlue, the staff, was very good at getting all the people on a flight to go to LaGuardia. And the other thing is, as you know, I was not really for liquor anyhow at that little bar cart that we have. But I met Mike, who's there with Hungry Minnow, and he's a very personable young man, and he was doing business, and after 3 hours waiting, I wish they served sandwiches. But it was good. Everybody, you know, enjoyed it, and JetBlue also brought us out soda and snacks when we were delayed for that length of time. So that's positive.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one comment, which is, some of you knew this already, but I thought it worth mentioning. The Town Government Study Committee is conducting 2 public hearings. The second one's tomorrow night, I believe. And the first one was 2 weeks ago, roughly. I don't remember the exact date. But I took it upon myself to go, and I identified myself as chair of the commission, but I clearly said that I was not representing the views of the commission, but that it was my view, having been in this role, that our system of government doesn't work particularly well for a business like the airport. And using as the best example, of course, the failure of the quorum at the special town meeting last October, when we couldn't get the taxiway appropriation through. But we need a system which speeds things up, is more responsive to needs that come along, in our case, quite speedily. Essentially, the other option is a town council form of government. Maybe a representative town meeting, but one that I know the system in Barnstable works pretty well from the airport's perspective, which is that they have a town council which meets every month, so that they can get appropriations approved by the town council every month. Any month, I guess is a better way to put it. I believe we are the only commercial airport, with the possible exception of Provincetown, in the Commonwealth that has a town meeting form of government. Martha's Vineyard is subject to the Dukes County Commission, and New Bedford's a city. Barnstable has a town council, and Worcester and Boston are different stories because of being part of Massport. So we are really at a disadvantage, in my view, and I expressed this to the committee, and the committee was quite engaged by the discussion, and they have indicated they want to come back to it. So we'll see what happens. But
If I may, Mr. Chair, that's extremely important with these upcoming big projects.
Right.
Timing is critical, as you've seen, not only with security and taxiway, but typically, the FAA will only award something based on bids. So we have to pay for the design up front, then we get the actual number for the bid, and it always needs adjusting, so we have to go back again for another bite at the apple. That's making the process at least 2 years, sometimes 3, to get a project accomplished. And that doesn't meet well with the FAA cycles of, hey, you got to be ready to build this thing if I'm going to give you the money. So we really need to look at that.
If I remember correctly, and I don't know if it was when I was on school committee years ago, there was, if you had an emergency, look, I really think that the administration, the office and the leak and everything was an emergency. And you could just go and declare it an emergency and then you'd get your money. We couldn't because of insurance, et cetera, like that. So I don't know if that's changed or if my
Well, no,
memory
for,
is.
for emergencies we can, and that was the office. But for a normal course of business, such as our capital programs, I believe one of the alternatives would be that we may have to call a special town meeting. And then we bear the cost of it and things, and it's very cumbersome.
and you can't be sure you get a quorum.
Right.
Right. I personally felt that was an emergency, having the downstairs flooded and
Yeah,
the
and that-
It
ladies.
was, and that was
people out
taken
of
care
the
of.
thing,
That
yeah.
was, we didn't have to wait for anything.
Well, you had to wait to get the insurance money, didn't
No,
you? That's why it was delayed, I thought.
No, my understanding, and Jamie knows this better than I do, but at a certain threshold, the money doesn't get transferred to the airport until town meeting for insurance projects that are covered under
So that's
insurance.
another,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Hang on.
we're out the money until we get to town meeting, which, is right up against the end of our year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So we'll see what happens, but I thought it was worth the effort.
Sounds like it, yeah.
All right.
One.
Yes, please.
I was just wondering what the status was. I was gonna ask, I missed you the other day on the ramp noise study.
So the ramp noise study was conducted July 26th to 28th. VHB sent 2 personnel down from their noise department. They got a very good weekend. There's a lot of traffic. They were also able to, in addition to set up their monitors, spend some time monitoring the north ramp with some of the large air carrier operations coming and going at the same time. We're looking forward to receiving a report from them after Labor Day, after they compile and analyze the data.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
So perhaps for our September meeting?
Right, well, related to that, one of the things we're going to talk about, we're going to have as an agenda item at the September meeting is sort of a summer wrap-up. There are a couple of issues that brought up, and noise is one of them. So we'll talk about some of these things in that session. Is there a motion to approve the meeting schedule as proposed?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have I have a question. Do we have a number of meetings that we have to be at, or what is that? Or can miss?
There is something, and
I think you can only do like 3 remotely. That's the only restriction I know specifically.
Okay, thank you.
You mean a person?
A person, a commissioner.
Well, I think that was just for executive meeting, wasn't it?
I believe it's for any meeting. You can't be remote for more than 3, I believe, but we can check on that.
check
Because
and find out.
that happened, and then we found, I think, and then we found out that it was just
only
executive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may be right. You
yeah.
may be right. We'll check on it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, Mr.
one
Rafter?
other item
Yes, sir.
for the commission's consideration. Purchase of tablets for commissioners. We go through a lot of paper, which is fine. If you want to continue with the paper, that's okay. But it just may make it easier on some, or whatever your choice is.
It would make it easier for me because I can read better on the tablet because I can enlarge things without them having to, the health staff having to send it
And I don't
enlarged.
think it has to be a all or none. It's just, just a thought.
Go ahead,
have
Mr.
that.
Casparo.
I'm fine with just using my own.
Yeah, I have
I
one.
don't really want a town issue.
Right.
I'm not against it for somebody else, but personally, I've kind of been downloading them anyway, and the reason I'm sort of personally sensitive is that I don't want it to seem like I'm sitting here
Right. Well, that's
on my
Yeah,
iPad
right, yeah.
when in fact I'm looking at the packet.
Exactly.
But all the contracts and everything, the truth is,
yeah. We
I
don't
can see that it is
wasteful
a lot of stuff.
So
Wasteful.
I just threw it out, so.
And I have my iPad, except this time
The only problem I have with it on the iPad is you have to go back to something, which doesn't happen very often. It's a little bit awkward because it's not always easy to find what I do another series of meetings unrelated on, and sometimes you have to flip back. But if we had one hard copy that we could refer to, perhaps, at least when we started. Do you have an iPad?
I do have an iPad, but
you-
for somehow I couldn't retrieve my meeting, even though I had looked at it already on it. Today I couldn't find
Yeah,
it.
I wouldn't retrieve mine today.
No,
either.
so I don't know what that's about.
We'll continue as is. I just.
No, well, that's
No, yeah.
I'm fine with it. If
Yeah.
everybody else is, you might check. Katie, you might check with Mr. Buscarin and see how he feels. But if everybody else is fine with it, why not? Why don't we just do it?
Yes, exactly.
And those of us who are comfortable with it, will do it, and those who aren't, will.
Yeah, if you want to have a hard copy, just let us know.
The one hard copy I would like to have at the meeting for everybody would just be an agenda.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
so you
Yes.
keep notes. I save all my agendas, and I
Right.
keep notes on
Yeah.
the agenda, and
But all the backup packet.
Yeah.
materials.
that would work for me.
Exactly. I
I would
agree.
include the agenda in the electronic package, but, as you do now, but I think having a hard copy agenda to refer to would be very helpful. All right, let's give it a try, see what happens. Fair enough. Anything else? That was
Make a
momentous.
motion To go into executive session, I think it's right in front of me, to review the minutes, and for, A and B listed on the agenda, not to return to
And
to
C.
open
I
session.
think we have to read them.
Okay. I can do that one.
That's why I have to do it.
Under clause 3, you
A,
want
B,
to
and
do
C.
it? Here,
Yeah, sure, so,
there's your hard copy.
I'll make a motion to enter executive session, per general law, chapter 30A, section 21, to review the executive session minutes enumerated on the agenda, under clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding the Gatto property, where the chair has determined an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the commission. And item C, clause 3 again, discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Walsh, where the chair has determined open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the commission. not to return to open session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed?
Do a roll call.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye.